Yeah. So this is yeah, this is where we left off yesterday. We were talking about decentralized exchanges, and I spoke about Uniswap, and this introduced the idea of an automatic market maker, which allows us to interact with a pool, which is usually a pair of tokens, and this allows users to exchange one token for another. And when you're doing that, if you're making what is called a swap, you're swapping one token from another, then you will pay fees to the pool. Now, the liquidity within the pool has to come from somewhere, and this is provided by liquidity providers. So there will be users who will be adding tokens into the pool. So they will, if you've got, I think the example here, I'd got ETH and USDT. So if those are the two tokens, then people can add ETH and USDT together into the pool. So they're not doing a swap; they're adding liquidity. And the fees that go into the pool from people doing swaps is then paid to the people who are providing liquidity. And the way that is done is that if you provide liquidity, you get what are called LP tokens. So there are effectively tokens to show that you've provided liquidity, and then the fees are used. They increase the number of tokens that you get, and then later on, if you want to withdraw the liquidity from the pool, you should end up withdrawing more than you put in. You effectively get more than you provided. Now, the way that these things work, the way that the DEX knows how to provide a price for the tokens that you are swapping is because of these things called constant function market makers. So when you are doing a swap, there is an automatic market being provided for you. The liquidity is being provided for you. And the way that this is done is that they have this thing called a constant function that is used to work out the price that you should be paying when you're doing the swap. So if you have two tokens, X and Y, then if you provide token X, then you'll get back a certain number of token Y, and the ratio, the price, the amount of token Y that you get back is what you see as the price. And that is calculated from this idea of a constant function, which is to do with maintaining the ratio of these within the pool and keeping the ratio of those two things equal to a constant. So that's what's happening behind the scenes. And you can, if you look at the pools, I mean, if you go to an exchange, you can dig into the pools, you can look at the number of tokens that are within a pool, and you can do this yourself. You can calculate these things yourself and work out what the price should be. Okay. But that is that is a special type of a special way of calculating the price that is a constant function. We're going to look at other ways to calculate prices a little bit later on. Um, I mentioned LP tokens. Yeah, I won't say more about that. But one thing to bear in mind is that when you are interacting with an exchange, you may not get quite what you expect for a number of reasons. So there's some terminology associated with this with decentralized exchanges and doing swaps and providing liquidity. The first one, price impact. This occurs when you do a very large transaction. So maybe you start off with a price. The price would be, say, 100 tokens you would expect to get back. But if you do a very large trade, that will move the price. That will impact the price. So you won't get as good a price because you are doing such a large trade. But this concept is something you get in traditional finance as well. So it's a fairly well-known idea. The other thing to know about, though, that is more specific to Web3 and the way that decentralized exchanges work is the fact that when you are interacting with an exchange, you will send in a transaction and you are expecting a certain price. Say you think you're going to get 100 tokens back, but there is an amount of time that exists before your transaction actually executes. And in that time, there could be other transactions executing on that same pool, which are moving the price. And so this is known as slippage. And it is something you do need to be aware of, and you can account for this in your transaction. And you can, when you interact with pools, you can say that you will tolerate a certain amount of slippage. So you will tolerate a price movement of, say, 1%. But if the price moves more than that, then you will ask for your transaction to revert. So you won't want your transaction to continue. Okay, which makes sense. You may have decided that at a particular price it's worth doing a transaction, but if the price moves 1% against you, then it wouldn't be worthwhile doing that. So that's you can specify that when you do the swap. And then the final thing is more to do with providing liquidity, where when you provide the liquidity, you are effectively locking up your tokens. You're providing tokens, they're going into the pool, um, and presumably they're going to be there for a while. You will get more back than you put in because you get the fees that are being added to the pool. But it could be that in the time that your tokens have been in that pool, that their real world value may have dropped. So although you perhaps get back more tokens than you put in, the actual value, the real world value, however you want to judge that, maybe the value, the USD price, um, maybe that will have fallen. So it may not have been a good idea to leave the tokens in the pool for that period of time. Uh, the way there are curves, you can see a curve here that sort of gives an idea of how the how these things change over time, the impermanent loss, depending on the change in price of the different tokens. Okay. Now, an important feature of DeFi protocols generally is the concept of composability and the idea that we can connect the protocols, connect programs together to provide new financial products. And we're able to do this because there is interoperability between the types of products that we have. So we have standards, and that means that, for example, if you have some tokens that are in a pool, then maybe you could do a swap, get some tokens out, and then put them into some other product. But that second product will still have the will still understand what those tokens are because the standards are being followed. And you can put a lot of these things together to make uh, complex and innovative financial products. But particularly when we're thinking about this in Solana, this for this to happen, we need to be able to chain our programs together. We need that to be possible, and so this is another reason why it's important that we're able to have programs calling each other and passing data from one program to another program. So that's another motivation for that. Now, this has been a great advantage, and people very much like the idea of composability and the fact that they can put projects together in this way. Uh, but there are risks involved. There is the idea of systemic risk, the fact that uh, this makes the perhaps the whole ecosystem a little bit more fragile. And because these projects are then connected together, dependent upon each other, if there is a major problem with one of these projects, this can spread throughout the ecosystem. And so you do see that. And we do see that also. Well, we see it for a couple of reasons, I suppose. One, I mean, it may be that the price of a particular token could change drastically. That may affect a particular exchange, but that could have a knock-on effect. Uh, but also that can happen where we have some malicious behavior going on where maybe a particular project has been exploited, and that can then have a knock-on effect. And for example, there could be a loss of liquidity or lack of liquidity in certain tokens that could affect other projects. So yeah, the ecosystem as a whole can be affected by problems with one or two protocols. Other things that we can do, borrowing and lending. The original one for these, I've got one of the original ones was compound, but the this idea will similar on other chains. I'll talk about some from Solana in a second, but the idea with this is very straightforward. You can go to one of these projects and borrow tokens. But in order to do that, you have to supply collateral and you have to over collateralize your position. So you have to provide more collateral than you are borrowing. Now you may say, well, that why would people do that? But it could be the case that you would want to have a particular token for a particular reason. Maybe you want to borrow certain tokens because that would give you voting rights, for example. Um, so it does make sense that you may want to do that, and you can borrow tokens. Um, but the collateral has to be sufficient so that to cover the fact that you could default and not pay them back. And in order for that judgment to be made, where the projects are constantly marking positions and looking at the value of collateral, and if the value of the collateral you've provided suddenly decreases, then it could be insufficient to for the position that you have for the what you've borrowed. In which case, a process called liquidation occurs, where the people can go in and liquidate your position, close down the position that you've borrowed, and yeah, because the collateral is not sufficient for that. Okay. Another concept, the idea of yield farming. This ties into the idea of composability also, where we get the possibility of sort of maximizing your returns for some particular holding that you have, so some particular capital that you have, and yield farming is the way of moving that between different projects to get the best returns. Um, I just got the screenshot here, which is where I became particularly aware that there's something very major happening. Back in 2020, it really struck home when I saw things like this, where for a particular token, you could get enormous returns just for lending these. Now, this didn't last, and the types of returns you get tend to be lower now. But it really did emphasized to me that there was a lot of appetite for these types of projects and being able to, yeah, do the composability and put these projects together and have tokens being transferred through many different projects. Now, something that is, I think, quite innovative, and we don't see it in traditional finance, is the idea of a flash loan. So I'll just quickly explain this to you if you haven't seen this before. And this is something that relies upon the fact that a transaction is atomic. So it applies to many different chains. If you imagine we are processing a transaction and we got some lines of code, and this is going to result in some update to the state of the system. So in this case, we say maybe it's going to update a balance from 5 to 10. So that's the happy path. If things work out well, then that's what we'll get. Uh, but what could happen is that the transaction could revert partway through. So here I'm saying the EVM, but also the SVM obviously could revert the transaction. In which case, the any changes to state do not occur. So we end up back where we started effectively. We don't have any change to state. So this is what we mean by transactions being atomic. And the in Solana, this is that we have instructions as well. So if one instruction fails or is reverted, then the whole transaction is reverted. Now, the way that this is useful with flash loans is that we have companies that provide these loans, and they allow you to borrow a large amount of capital, a large amount of tokens. And you can do this at a very low cost, and you don't have to provide any collateral when you borrow these tokens. But the thing that you have to do is to repay these tokens within one transaction. So the fact that the provider of the loan knows that they will get their tokens back within one transaction, that eliminates the risk that they would face otherwise, and then the need for the collateral. Because if you don't, if they don't come back within the transaction, the way the transaction works and the way the borrowing works, what the loan provider would do would be to revert the whole transaction if you haven't paid them back. So that would be as if you'd never borrowed them in the first place, because the beginning of the transaction is you borrowing these tokens, and then you can do whatever you like with them, but you have to pay them back all within one transaction. So in terms of the supplier of the flash loan, this reduces the risk. It means it's a worthwhile thing to do. And then also from the borrower side, this can be very useful because imagine you've spotted some opportunity to make some profit, but you could amplify that by having a larger amount of tokens to this uh, to take care to take advantage of this opportunity. So what you can do is you can take out a flash loan. You have a lot of tokens. You do whatever it is you're going to do. You do swaps or you borrow or whatever it is that's going to make you the profit. And then at the end of this, you'll pay back your original loan, and hopefully you will have made a profit overall. But also, there's the concept of reducing your risk, because you can take out the loan and you can be doing whatever it is you're doing to make your profit. But if it turns out that it's not going well, so if just before you're due to pay back the loan, you realize that you're not going to make a profit, you don't have to accept that as a loss, because what you can do then is decide to revert the transaction yourself. And then it will be as if you'd never taken out the loan in the first place. So, uh, all in all, it's a quite a risk-free thing that you can do, and it is widely used. It can be used for legitimate purposes. It can also be used for malicious purposes. You do see it where people try to take advantage of a vulnerability in a project by doing a transaction with a large number of tokens, and sometimes that can introduce a vulnerability. So it can be used for malicious purposes as well, but it also for legitimate purposes, for just typical trading that you may want to do. Okay, so that's what flash loans are, but you may well have come across those before. Now, the next few slides, there's quite a lot of detail, so I'm just going to pick up a few points out of these because there's probably more than I need to go through. But yeah, you don't need to necessarily go into this, but the notes are there anyway if you are interested. So the idea of a bonding curve is to uh, is the way that we can get a price, the way that we can work out a price for some tokens. So we saw the in the case of the AMMs, we had this idea of a constant function. So this is an example of a bonding curve. It's the way that we can get a price depending upon the ratio of some tokens within a pool. But the bonding curve sort of takes that, or that it generalizes it, takes it further. It doesn't have to be a constant function. You can have different types of bonding curves. So there's these notes are about how that uh, all works. I don't want to go into too much detail. If you want me to, though, I'll be happy to. We can come back to this later. But it's the mechanism by which we can if we adjust the supply of tokens within our ecosystem, then that will adjust the price of those tokens. And now this could be sort of very being done very explicitly with a bonding curve in a particular environment, maybe in a pool, or it could be just more generally where we are uh, changing the supply of tokens and relying on markets to change the price. But you do often see this, and the concept of either minting tokens and so increasing the supply of tokens, which will then lead to a reduction in the price because there are more tokens available, so each one will be worth less. Or the idea of burning tokens, which removes tokens from the total supply, in which case the price should increase. They are each one is worth more. And these concepts of minting and burning, they're quite fundamental to the way that tokens work. And but obviously there's all sorts of security around these. There will be administrators who are increasing the supply, and also when you're burning tokens, obviously you can't burn other people's tokens. So there has to be the correct security around this, but it is something that that does happen. There's some details here of how you can or why you may want to do this, and you may want to change prices and supply of tokens at different stages of a project. So you've got the concept there of rewarding early adopters, for example. Um, the maths behind it, I don't think I'll go through this because we've got plenty of other things to cover, but there are you can work out different formula to that can be used to calculate a price. So we saw the one with the automatic market maker where we had the ratio being equal to a constant, but you can do other uh, types of functions as well. Um, I yeah, I don't think I'll probably we're going to go through that any further. But as I say, if you want to find out more, please do ask. There's also links there to articles about it as well. Um, in terms of how we see this, particularly in DeFi, uh, you can see this well with governance tokens. Governance is quite difficult because we need to align incentives with governance because what we want governance to do is to engage people and get them in form a community around the the project we have and get people involved in the direction of that, and we want people to be voting on that and uh, being involved in the decision making. The way that we incentivize that is to reward people for getting involved by giving them governance tokens. But you have to do that carefully so that those incentives still apply, that they are getting involved because they want to be involved, uh, but not too much that they're just there to make money out of the tokens. And then equally, you have to ensure that there is sufficient incentive so that people will get involved, so that you do get a vibrant community around your project. So for those reasons, you have to, be able to adjust the supply of tokens and the price of tokens to make sure that it does provide a good incentive. Um, the other areas where we see bonding curves are in stable coins. So with a stable coin, we're trying to maintain the value of a particular token against some reference. Now that could be maybe against the dollar, or it could be against other things, but it's often against the dollar. So we have things like USDT, which is a token that tries to maintain a value of $1. And the way that that is done, there are different ways that that can be done. Sometimes this is done according to an algorithm, and so the the algorithm, which could involve a bonding curve, uh, tries to adjust the price according to keep it at a particular level. And it can do that. For example, it could be done by increasing or decreasing the supply of that token within the ecosystem. But there are different ways to do that. It is quite a tricky thing to get right as well. There's been lots of examples of it going wrong. But anyway, that's what stable coins are about as well. Um, but yeah, bonding curves have lots of uses if you want to dig into how they work. So there's notes there for you about that. Which brings me onto further details. I've got some more here. This this is showing the different types of formula. I don't think I want to go through this. It's um, uh, quite complex. So I think I'll talk more generally about DeFi and Solana. But if you do have questions, yeah, please do ask, and I can come back to that at another time. So uh, DeFi, I think, is one of the major areas. When people think about blockchains, this is one of the areas that they tend to think of first. And certainly Solana has quite a large emphasis on DeFi. And I think part of that is it has targeted scalability. It has produced all these innovations, and its architecture has all of these innovations that uh, try to improve throughput, which really then lends itself to DeFi applications. You you often want to be able to very quickly take advantage of opportunities in a DeFi project. So I think DeFi is, a very important part of the Solana ecosystem overall. So there are lots of projects. So I've just got a few details about some of them here. Um, I can scroll. This was done. I took this uh, screen grab so towards the beginning of this year, just to give you an idea of the amounts that we're talking about, the value that we've got within all of these projects. So this that call it total value locked, the total value that's available there. So as you can see, there's a lot of value at the moment. It has gone up and down. So this has followed very much the sentiment around crypto generally, and we saw a drop sort of in 2023, that sort of time, for various reasons. But then things are picking back up as well now, as you can see here. The total amount invested in all of these projects is increasing. Um, just to give you an idea of some of the projects that we have. Um, so this is showing, yeah, some of the major projects and the types of uh, the categories that we have. So we have things like DEXs, stable coins, lending, liquid staking, real world assets, etc. So there's quite a mix and quite a lot of projects. I've got some details of a few of these here. One of the early ones, Radium. Um, this well, yeah, started out being sort of doing a decentralized exchange and then evolved, added more. I think that's quite a common thing that you see, that a lot of projects will start out being a very sort of simple decentralized exchange, and then over time they'll try to maybe add more uh, products to that, do different types of things, such as adding maybe liquid staking, something like that, or maybe they will try to provide a better user experience around the the decentralized exchange, and perhaps offer sort of better trading tools, that kind of thing. Maybe do things that are more like traditional finance. We see things that provide order books that are or yeah, central limit order books, which are very much like the things we see in traditional finance. And those are, they are in demand by people who are trading. So you often see that these things start out small and then add more and more complexity and more functionality as time goes on. This just shows you what the interface looks like here. So this is to do a swap, and it's to swap Sol for Orca. So you can see here you're proposing you're going to provide one Sol, and it's expected to give you back 28 Orca there. Uh, there is this thing is saying that there's a warning about price impact. I think this is probably because I did this on probably on a test network where there was little liquidity. But what it is saying is, I've provided too much here, and it's going to impact the price. Um, yeah, so you can see that, yeah, price impact of sort of 21%. The other thing to see here is that the way that these exchanges do the swaps has increased in complexity as well. So this one, for example, I've said I want to provide Sol and I'm going to get back Orca, but in order to do that, the exchange has worked out a an optimal way of doing that, which involves first of all swapping Sol for USDC, a stable coin, and then swapping that USDC for Orca, and that would give a better yield. So you often find that now on decentralized exchanges that they will go through different stages, go through different tokens to provide the swap that you want. And it's not necessarily just going to swap one directly for another. There may be an optimal way of doing the swap. And and then in addition to that, you do get aggregation across exchanges. So sometimes, in addition to this, you will see a swap which goes to different exchanges as well to get you the best price for your particular swap. Okay. Um, okay. Um, Other things, this happened, well, yeah, last year or almost a year ago. We got a major project moving over to to Solana being called Sky. This was a stable coin there being talked about at Breakpoint, as you can see. And then this also uh, brought out this proposal for this thing called New Chain as well, which is creating a chain based on the architecture and the innovations that we have in Solana. That was about that here, mentioning the fact that the ecosystem survived the collapse of FTX, which did hit Solana particularly hard, I think, but it survived that and has recovered very well. Okay. Um, Let me just quickly mention NFTs. We're going to spend a lot more time talking about NFTs as well. We're going to be showing you how to create them and all the tools that you can use around those. But NFTs stands for non-fungible token. What it means is that we have a token that has a unique identity. And although these have been around for a long time, they certainly came into their own, particularly when they were being used to show the ownership of digital assets. And again, that idea has been around for a long time, but then it suddenly took off, and people wanted to buy an NFT that showed that they owned a particular asset, a particular digital asset, maybe an artwork. And then that has become more generalized, I suppose, with the idea of sort of real world assets and the idea of tokenizing things, not just say an artwork and the idea that you could own a particular digital artwork, but you could have something like some property, a building that you could then tokenize and sell uh, shares of that building with tokens on a blockchain. So NFTs really took off. Initially, yeah, I think around digital assets. Uh, their use has changed, and though that is still the case that you people do that, they're also used for other things. They're used in games, for example, maybe to show that you have reached a particular level in a game or that you have access to a particular area in a game or access to items in a game. So their use has broadened, but they were extremely popular. And again, this may be one of the first things that people think of when people think about blockchains. And Solana very much uh, tried to provide a an environment that would encourage developers of NFTs and would make that process simple and would really cater to how NFTs were being used. And we'll see that when we dig into them in more detail, that the original way that NFTs were created before they became particularly popular was very basic. And then as they became more popular and people used them in different ways, we got a lot of tools being developed to help with those things, with the ways that they were being used, and to help developers uh, do more complex things, such as uh, creating artworks that would have royalties and setting up auctions, setting up marketplaces, all those types of things. Uh, so yeah, a major area within Solana is NFTs. We're going to look at them in a lot more detail in later lessons. Okay. Um, Now, something that is perhaps a little more contentious, the idea of meme coins. And again, I think this is an area that Solana got very involved in, uh, but maybe the sentiment about meme coins has changed a little bit recently in the last few months. Certainly, they were very popular. It's 9 months ago, say something like that. They have a particular, what should we call it, a scope? I don't know, a particular use case. They work in a particular way. Um, the idea is that they they would represent some meme, and then they because they are representing that, they could gain incredible popularity. Um, but they're very much based around the culture around, well, internet, but blockchain as well. Um, and they're very much focused on the here and now. They're very much focused on things that are happening at the moment. And of course, if you create a token associated with a meme and it becomes popular, then potentially that token will rise in value. And that is often the reason that people are creating these things. The idea that you could create something that is then going to rise massively in value is obviously a motivator as well. And it's perhaps less the case that you're going to use these in a particular way. They perhaps have less inherent utility, as I say there. It's more that they are capturing something at the moment, and they are going to increase in value. But there's a lot of marketing around these and communities built up around memes and then around associated coins as well. So yeah, I've got lots of details about meme coins here as well. The I think the reason that Solana has been a place where you see a lot of activity is because of the scalability of Solana, the fact that people can trade these very quickly. It's not the type of thing that where people would, be wanting to hold these over a long time, and where people wouldn't be concerned about transacting quickly. With meme coins, it's very much about getting things done very quickly and taking advantage of, the latest trend, or taking advantage of a price movement, etc. And for that, you do need a platform like Solana to enable you to get that scalability. Um, then also we got platforms like Pump.Fun as well that have been set up specifically for this area to help people create and trade in meme coins as well. So there's a few details there, some examples of this idea that you're getting much higher throughput and relatively small transaction fees compared to, say, Ethereum as well. Um, the I haven't spoken about the SPL, the Solana program library yet, and the way that uh, tokens are implemented. I'll just say that there is a standard, obviously, on Solana for creating tokens, and there is a library that will provide us with an implementation of that. So it's very simple to do this, and we're going to go through this in a second, the details about that. Further details here, yeah, it's about the marketing, etc. I don't need to go through much more about that. And there's details here of how to actually create these. Really, it's as simple as just creating a token, a standard token anyway, which we're going to talk about in a second. But then with meme coins, a lot of the work is in, not on the technical side of actually creating it. It's around the marketing and the community as well. So some details there. Some of the more famous meme coins here. Um, so what are the risks involved with these? Well, it's obviously there are trading risks, and the fact that they are designed around price volatility. That's very much what they are about, and the fact that they are expected to have large volatility, large price volatility. So there's consequently lots of risk if you get involved in them. Um, very much about, yeah, market sentiment and about speculation. Uh, Regulation, it's interesting. Um, the Perhaps this is a topic that we could cover later, but regulation generally on blockchain is can have great effect. And even though you may think that blockchains are, say, censorship resistant, etc., and that regulators cannot you may think that they cannot get involved and make a difference. In actual fact, they very much can do that because people do still. Well, there are very few people that exist entirely on Web3. So even people who are using Web3 and holding lots of tokens will still be using fiat in their daily lives, and that place where these two worlds intersect is where regulation can be applied and can have a large effect. Okay, and regulators uh, tend to dislike um things that um, could have a potential, could be seen as negative and have a potential negative impact for investors. So things that look like a scam or where there is large volatility, uh, that is uh, that can be seen as problematic, and that could um, en encourage the regulators to get involved. Oh, I've got some. There we go. So um, okay, let me move on. Um, So other projects, I've just got some listed out in various screenshots. You've got example here. So this is uh, around a way of um, doing well, different thing, lending and yield farming, etc. So you've got examples here of four different tokens. You've got the interest rates that you can get for those if you're uh, going to borrow them or to lend them. Um, the way that these things work has become more complex over time. So it we do get things, as I was saying about this idea of the money Lego, the composability. You do get more complex financial products. We have got those over time, particularly around things like staking and liquid staking, where you uh, you can get a return on an asset that is being used to stake. You can effectively use things that previously would have been kind of locked up in staking, but you can actually with liquid staking you can get other returns on those as well. So details about that, and there's an SDK. We'll certainly dig into this a little bit later. The some interaction and how we can interact programmatically with exchanges or with other DeFi protocols. So, but yeah, this is one way of doing it. These projects will supply an SDK so that you can write some code to interact directly with them. Yeah, just more details there. Other ones, yeah, one of the popular ones, Jupiter as well. This is an example where they have this algorithm to intelligently get the best price by routing amongst different AMMs in the ecosystem, and they I mean, very much providing services for traders here. They've got different types of trading methods. We've got the swap, that's the standard one. But then we've got things like limit orders, which something that is very much the bread and butter of traditional finance. But then that is being brought into decentralized exchanges as well. And it's not something that is sort of easily brought over, I guess. Not something that is easily done, but there are ways that can do it. Yeah, the other ones I don't know very much about those. So yeah, um, yeah, it's all about providing tools, providing products for traders there, and providing different pools. If you look at these exchanges, they will often provide many different pools for different purposes as well. So you've got examples there where they've got this particular token, um, which is used as an index for a fund of other tokens. So yeah, lots of complex financial products getting set up as well, allowing people to do leverage positions as well for various programs. And then they've also added the sort of meme coins as well if people want to get involved with that. Um, another, this is just an overview of Jito. So this is, yeah, about liquid staking. So you can provide, SOL that is going to be staked, but then that can um, uh, give you this liquid staking token, Jito Sol. Um, and it means that not only are you getting some benefit from the staking itself, it means that the other things in the ecosystem that will provide you with some interest. And in this case, they're looking at this thing MEV, which we can certainly talk more about. But this is a very complex area, but it's a way that um, for example, block producers or the leaders can get extra value um, by virtue of the fact that they are allowed to choose the order of transactions within a block. Um, but yeah, it's much more complicated. So, but Jito is able to get some of that MEV, get some of that value from the ecosystem as well, and then that can get paid back to the people who are doing their liquid staking. Okay. All right. Oh, Pump Fun. So yeah, this is about the meme coins. Sorry, the order's gone slightly bad here. But yeah, I don't know if I need to go through this too much. It's all about meme coins and is really there. It's a provides tools for people to easily get into this area and create new meme coins and get them out. Um, it tries to make it as simple as possible so that anybody can do it without having to understand about creating tokens and go through the process that we're going to go through, where we understand how to create a token, and Pump Fun is there to make that much simpler. Um, I suppose it does have the advantage that the way it does that is standardized, and means that it's audited, and so potentially it's that's more secure. There, um, they have these. They're very much dependent on the bonding curves. Um, the This is, yeah, details of a particular one. So a linear curve um, that allows you to work out the price. So Y here is the price, where dependent on the supply of a particular token. So just a very standard um, curve, just a line there. Um, I don't know. There's further detail of this. The the idea of a rug pull is certainly worth thinking about. Rug pulls were very popular at one point. They were a very common thing that happened, where within a project that was supplying a token, for example, the a share of the number of a share of the total supply would be given to developers, and would be advertised as being for future development. And there was this understanding that this token would have some longevity, would have a certain lifetime. But in fact, the reason that they were being created was in order to do this rug pull, where as soon as the price starts to go up and as soon as people get involved and are buying tokens, external people, not the developers themselves, but as soon as the token is being bought by the general public, then the developers dump all their liquidity on an exchange, which means they can. They all get a large amount of value out of that, but it then means that gives a large price impact, and so the other holders of the tokens at the time are going to see the value of their tokens drop down to zero. Um, so that's, yeah, general idea behind a rug pull. But so that what they're trying to do here in Pump Fun is to reduce the possibility of that happening and get rid of the that kind of behavior. Um, yeah, the details of it, well, it's standard using the standard way of creating tokens, which we're going to come on to in a second. Um, but they use these bonding curves to then work out what the price of a particular token would be over time. But it's all about really simplifying the process of doing this and allowing meme coins to be created very quickly without having to have developers being involved. Okay, so let's talk about tokens. So this is somewhat different. So if you've come from a Ethereum background, uh, the way that tokens work on Solana is somewhat different. And uh, just to contrast it, on Ethereum, you can create a token based on the ERC20 standard. Uh, but the way that you do that is that you have to provide all of the code for that token. You have to write a smart contract which contains all of that code. Now, some of that code could be taken from third-party libraries, but still you are creating a contract which has all of that code within it. And really, that's quite wasteful because we're getting the same functions deployed, the same bytecode be deployed again and again and again on the blockchain, where we don't really need that. Often with tokens, what we have is we have the functions. The functions are all the same, but all the tokens are different because they're configured differently. They have different names and different symbols, etc. So what the approach that Solana has taken is to say, well, we'll provide a standard library, and part of that is a a program that will create a token for you. And because of the way that Solana works, we have these. the fact that we put our data in accounts that is separate from the program. This means that we don't have to recreate this program just because we want a token with a different name. The configuration of the token effectively is in a separate account. Excuse me. And so we can use the same token program uh, as the to provide the functionality for all of the tokens on Solana, but we can then customize them by having the details in different accounts. Okay. Now, the Solana program library, the SPL, does other things as well, which we're going to look at later. But we'll look now at the token program. Obviously, it's very heavily used. That's the program ID there. Obviously, they've created it specially. And what this allows you to do is to create tokens following the standards or the basic standards that we want, which are the fungible tokens and the non-fungible tokens. Okay. Now, we do need to understand some accounts here. So this is where it gets a little bit more complex. And I do encourage you to go through this a couple of times. There's some good articles linked there that you may want to read that explain this nicely. Uh, so when we create a token, what we start off with, we have the token program. So this is the program that is supplied by Solana that exists, that is providing the functionality for all tokens. And what we do is we want to create a token of a particular type. And so we need an account. We need to store some metadata that is going to describe this token in general. And so for that, we have this thing called the mint account. So the we're going to create our token. We're going to create first of all an account, the mint account, which holds the general data about that token, the things that are true for all of the tokens, so all of the tokens of that type. So if you're creating your cat token, for example, then the mint account would have details of the name of the token and things like that, or the number of decimal places in the token. So that's the kind of the general data account that we need first of all that describes our token overall. But then we also have another account, the token account, which is created for each holder of that token. So this may seem a little odd, and you may think, well, why don't we just have all of that in the mint account? Details of who owns a token or details of the balances, but we don't. We actually create new accounts for each holder of the token. So if you created your cat token and then you're going to send some of these tokens to Alice and to Bob, what will happen is that you'll need to create a special account. Well, first of all, you create a general account for the cat token, and then you create special accounts for Alice for that particular token. So there will be an account for Alice for the cat token, and there'll be an account for Bob for the cat token. And within those accounts, it will specify the number of tokens that they each have. Okay. Yeah. So the overall process then is to to create a token, we need to create the mint account. The process of doing that will we need to create an initial supply. So the we will mint a number of tokens to a particular account so that one owner has all of the relevant tokens. And then once they have that owner has the tokens, then they can transfer those to other people, and we can then use the tokens as normal. So what does this look like? Well, the Mint account has these fields. So this is as I say, the metadata This gets set up when we are creating that specific token. Um, and we need things such as an idea of who is allowed to mint tokens. So who is the administrator? So that's what this mint authority, excuse me, what the mint authority field is about. Um, we we want to have an idea of the supply, the total supply of the tokens. So we can specify that. The number of decimals within a token, we need to supply that. I'll just quickly explain that. If you haven't come across this before, it may seem a little bit unusual, but within blockchains generally, where we are working with integer values, the balance that someone has of a particular token wouldn't allow decimal places if you just have integers. So you wouldn't be able to say that Bob has 2.5 tokens if we don't have decimal places, if we only have integers. So that's a drawback, and we would like to be able to have decimal places. So the way that we do that is to say, well, in the accounts and behind the scenes, yes, things will get stored as integers, but we'll have a way of interpreting that. We'll have a way of interpreting the value that we get back, the balance value that we get back. And the way that we interpret that will depend upon the number of decimal places that this token has. So if we said that the number of decimal places that our token has is 6, then when we get a value back for a balance, an integer value, what we will do is to say, well, the six rightmost uh, integers numbers within that balance are actually the decimal places. So even though sort of behind the scenes and the way it's stored is just a large integer, the way we are interpreting that depends upon the number of decimal places that this particular token has. We have a flag here to see to make sure this thing has been initialized. We also have the possibility of a freeze authority. So the idea that an administrator will be the freeze authority, and they will be able to freeze accounts and stop particular accounts from spending tokens of this particular token type. Um, Yeah, there's details here then of the process we go through when we are creating it. We create a number of, sorry, we call a number of functions. So we got the initialize mint, an initialize account. So this initialize count, this is where we have the 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 token account, the user account that is then specific for a particular holder of these tokens. So you can see uh, the fields within that particular account. Um, we have the mint here. This is the mint account here. So this is owning this particular token. So obviously, we need that link because this is details of a certain token for a particular user, but we want to be able to link back then to the details of tokens for all users, of that particular token for all users. And then other things, we have um, the owner of or yeah, these tokens and the amount that they hold. We have the possibility of delegate as well, that we can allow somebody else to spend tokens on our behalf. And we have a delegated amount to say how much they can have. Um, the Yeah, this the is I forgot this. I think the is native is a native currency, which yeah is going to make uh, a difference to rent. Um, we also have the possibility of the close authority, the fact that somebody can close down this particular token account. Okay. Um, so that's what we need to set up when we are creating the account for a particular user for this token. So we need all of those details there. And when we've set that up, then uh, we can set up a balance for a person. They can then transfer those tokens to other people. Um, there are some checks that will happen when we're doing that. So there are going to be checks as about the accounts involved and whether they are frozen. So the addresses involved, whether those are frozen. Um, we need to check when we're doing a transfer. If Alice is transferring tokens to Bob of a particular token type, Alice has got her cat token. She's going to transfer some of those cat tokens to Bob. Then we do a check that when we have this the this account for Alice and the corresponding one for Bob, we do a check to say to make sure that the mint account that they are referring to is the same. Otherwise, there will be different tokens. So we have to make sure that they're talking about the same token for both of those users. So we need to do that. Obviously, we can only transfer as many tokens as we have, so we do a check on that as well. But if you want to send tokens to yourself, then you can try to do that. That doesn't get thrown out. I've mentioned burning. The general idea behind that is that it removes tokens from the supply. Of course, you have that has to be done securely. Um, Approval, again, this is something that works differently to how it's done in Ethereum. If we set up an approval, so that means that we're going to allow someone else to spend tokens on our behalf. Um, the way that that works in the token program is that we can only do that for one delegate at a time. So we can't set up multiple approvals. And in fact, if you do set up a new approval, that will override the previous one. So only one can exist at a particular time. We can also remove the approval by doing a revoke, and then we've got the freeze and thaw functionality to freeze accounts or to thaw accounts. Okay. Um, uh, I've got questions being answered, I think. Uh, I'm not sure where I had the multi-sig, but yeah, hopefully my colleagues can expand on that. Okay. Now, that that token program was the original way that we could create tokens. That was the original program that was created to allow us to create tokens on Solana. And it is very basic in what it does. Not That's not to say it doesn't do well, but it has quite limited functionality. Um, and we'll see that that is true not only for fungible tokens, but for non-fungible tokens as well. And over time, people have then wanted other functionality. They wanted to add to the functionality, and that has given rise to this thing, the Token 2022 program, which is adding extensions to add extra functionality to the basic tokens that we have. So, for example, if you wanted to have some confidentiality in the transfers, or if you wanted to apply fees when tokens are being transferred, or have interest-bearing tokens, etc. So, extra use cases, extra functionality that people have wanted, will have been then put into this token 2022 program as well. But we're going to talk about that later on. We've got that as a separate topic later on. Now, because of the way that the token program works and the way that we have these accounts, if you sort of follow this diagram, and particularly the fact that we need an account set up for each person that is going to have a balance of a particular token. This makes things a little bit awkward in some ways because we don't necessarily know what that the address of that account. We don't necessarily know how to get to that account, and we we may want to. Alice may want to transfer tokens to Bob, for example, but she wouldn't know the details of that account that is used by Bob to show that he holds some tokens. What we do know about the people that we're interacting with usually is we know their general wallet account, we know their usual address, their public key, but that is different to the address that we have here. Um, so how do we know how to get to that account so that we can update it if we want to send them tokens? And to help with this, we have this thing called the Associated Token Account Program. And what this allows us to do is to work out the token account from the user's main account, their everyday sort of wallet account. So it's a way that we can start at that and then from that work out the this account address that's associated for a particular token. And this uses these things called associated token accounts. And another way that this is used is if you imagine Alice wants to send some tokens to Bob, but Bob doesn't actually hold any tokens of that particular type yet. That means that he won't have one of these accounts set up yet for him. Obviously, you only create one of these accounts when somebody is going to be holding those tokens. You're not going to create an account for every potential user in the system. So you just need to create this when somebody actually owns some tokens. And so, um, oops, yeah. So what we need to do then is when we're transferring, we need to be able to create this account for the other user. Um, and this is also helped by this associated token account program. What it allows them to do is to create that account for a user that doesn't already have that token account. And then we can then use that account to specify the number of tokens that they're going to have. Um, that may seem, yeah, that may seem rather complex and a bit perplexing. So I've got some more links here to hopefully help you with that and more details of how we can do that uh, in this diagram. So you've got the example here. We've got Aaron and Mitchell who have their normal wallet, their normal address. But from that, we can then derive these associated token accounts, which are specific for a particular token. So you can see here we've got one for USDC, we've got one for SAMO, etc. But they can all be deterministically derived from the wallet ID that they have, and then obviously the details of the token. Okay, so it's a way of getting to that account. Okay. Right. If you want to start trying this out, you can do this. We can use the command line. We have a tool that allows us to create tokens on the command line. So we we'll look at how to do this programmatically, but also we can just do this on the command line as well. So you need to have the normal command line, the normal CLI installed, and then also you have to install this particular CLI for SPL token. It may be that if you've got a missing dependency, then there's details here of how to install it on Linux. That sometimes happens. And then we use the command line pretty much the same way that we've done it before. We can check the network that we are currently attached to. If we are not on the correct network, then we can set the particular network. So this is an example of setting our network to DevNet, but you could set it to whatever you want. We saw previously about creating a key pair. So this is just going through that again. If you haven't already done that, then this is details of how to do that and how to verify the address of your wallet. Also how to get an airdrop. So that's just the background. You've probably already done that, but if not, then that's details. There's the steps there. You also then, yeah, you need to install the correct CLI. Once you've done that, then you can use that to create yourself a token. So this is creating a fungible token. So this is where all the tokens are the same. There's nothing to distinguish between them. If you do that, you'll see that it will give you details of the token as well. But it doesn't have a supply yet. You need to set up the supply, so you can do that. And you need to set up an account to hold the token. So you need to set up the token account. So you can do that with create account. I think that apostrophe shouldn't be there. And once that account is set up, then you can mint into that. So you've set up your initial supply, and then you can mint tokens to the account with the mint command there, and then you can check balances with the if you have the token ID, and similarly with the supply. And if you want a summary of the tokens that you have, then you can get that with SPL token accounts. So remember that this we've associated this with a particular wallet, and so this is uh, giving us details about that particular wallet. Yeah. Um, and then if we want to transfer tokens, we can easily do that with transfer. Again, you have to specify which token you're transferring, how much, and to which address you're sending them to. Um, you may You can do this fund recipient as well, which will set up the token account if it doesn't already exist. Um, or another way around that is to uh, get the recipient to create an account, even though they don't have any tokens yet, but they can do the create account themselves for that token, and then you can do a transfer without having to do the fund recipient. Okay. Um, we're pretty much out of time, so I think I'll stop there before we move on to the non-fungible tokens. See you tomorrow. Bye bye.